Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Nate, your host with Parents versus Society. This is episode 2. Welcome. Hey, man, we're here to shed light on all the doubts, concerns, the struggles that parents deal with while raising their kids. And so we're just here again to just learn more about what society brings to the table as we're raising our kids. And so, again, we're here with our guests. Again, G-Pa, D.L. Loudon, Pops, the man of many hats. And so we wanted to make sure we get to the nitty gritty. And so, hey, Pops, what's going on today?
Man, how you doing, son? Good to be here with you.
Good, for sure. Appreciate you being a part of another episode of Parents versus Society.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, man, we was chopping it up, man, and we got to where we moved to the east side of town, man, and, you know, I started getting into a little bit more trouble. We was working out. We was talking about how it was a world within the world, the world that you guys raised us in, and the world that we actually created, which was two separate worlds. Two separate worlds, man. And so I wanted to know, basically, you know, where were you mentally when, you know, as you, and you can speak on it, be free on a lot of things I brought to the table as far as the trouble, the law enforcement. You know, I was looking at life in prison, just getting into stuff I really wasn't supposed to be in. Where were you mentally?
I was not in a good place. If there's two things I felt like I had to get right, even above preaching and pastoring. I always felt like I had to be a good husband to your mom, and I needed to be a good father to you all. And I felt like I had failed at parenting. And I felt like if I was a good father, if I was a good parent, you or any of your siblings wouldn't have gone down the roads that they did go down. And so I was trying to figure out, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? What could I have said differently? What could I have done differently? And so I was not in a good place. I actually, during that time, when it came to a head for you, when you was actually locked up, you know, I think it was about 30 days. You was looking at some serious time in prison. I almost had a nervous breakdown because I felt like, wow, the one thing I felt like I had to get right, or one of the most important things I had to get right as a parent, I failed that. And I failed my son. I failed my children. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And I literally almost had a nervous breakdown. I remember driving down Lakemont Road in Winter Park, and I had to pull off on the side of the road, and I just screamed. And with tears in my eyes, I said, Lord, you got to help me. If you don't help me now, I'm not going to make it. And it was a real tough time. I went to a dark place. I was depressed. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't even want to talk to my pastor friends that I knew covered me and would have been there for me. I shut everybody out. I even shut your mom out. I wasn't there. She was hurting, trying to deal with her way. Instead of us going through it together, I just basically shut it down. I wasn't good for nobody, man.
And so just to give for the listeners, you know, I got into a lot of trouble. I was looking at life in prison with no bond, no nothing. It's nothing my parents could have done to even get me out for a little bit.
Well, first of all, when you got arrested, it was right in front of your mama.
It was right in front of mama, yep.
And she come out of her daycare because she owned her own daycare.
About 13 cops.
Right around the corner from the house. And
ARs.
And you at the that convenience store next door. And the cops come knocking on the door, you know, to the daycare. And your mom open up, and she see all those ARs locked on you. And that scene, I don't even know if that might even still affect her today. I don't know, but she had to see that, and we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
What did our son do so bad that? And I'm with the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a chaplain. I got my badge in the vehicle right now that says chaplain, Orange County Sheriff Office. So I'm a member of the law enforcement community, and my deputies out there are locked and loaded on my son. And if you made one wrong move, you was out of there.
Well, in a sense, you still raised me, right? Because I stayed still.
Thank God.
I stayed still. I wasn't arguing with them. Yeah, and I go back on Lil Nate and how much he changed my life, and
Yes.
I have 3 other children with my wife. Shout out to you, Portia. Um, and I go back and I can't imagine going through what I put you through.
Mm.
That's the crazy thing. I can't even imagine that. Like I go back on and be like, man, I really put my parents through, like, for even me to be in that position,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't know what to do. So just to even hear your reaction and your response to, the things in that season and in that time.
I'm about to cry now, man.
Yeah,
Just to think about that.
yeah. And
That was a rough time.
definitely a rough time, and I even go back on the when I go back on the nose that you always said to us, the whippings. We used to get whippings, y'all. They don't allow that nowadays, but we used to get them whippings with different things. I ain't gonna mention all of them because I don't want them to get in trouble. I don't know what's gonna happen, but we used to get them whippings, which brought a lot of.
I already use a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm talking about them switches. Y'all know about them switches. Y'all know about the belts.
Switches,
Warm up the belts.
the paddle.
But it still brought discipline to us. But going back on the nose, as kids, I think a lot of parents nowadays, they lay off on whippings because of how they felt, and I think we get to the point where, like, dang, we got a whipping. I don't like my parents, but I understand your nose. I didn't know it was love, and society made us feel like it was hate, like it's like we shouldn't, like it shouldn't be there. And I feel like that's what's happening even now. And, a lot of single moms, they just stray away. They struggle with loving and disciplining them. Like, I talked to a lot of them, me as being a coach, I talked to a lot of different single parents, from fathers to mothers. And, man, they struggle with trying to balance out the love, the discipline. But I feel like that's so important because, having a mama, she's so tough. But mama was still a great example of love and care, and just the way she operated, from the way she showed you. Like, having an example of great parents is one of the best ways of raising kids. It's not just speaking or just saying no, but it's also just seeing the example, and we seen the example through y'all, which help instill Christ-like love. It instilled the way we should love, because at the moment, y'all used to talk about Jesus all the time. We ain't want to hear nothing about no Jesus. As PKs, that's what we hear all the time, and like, that's part of that stigma.
Yeah.
That's part of that stigma. So, yeah, man, listen, bro. If I ain't never said, I'm sorry I put you guys through that, because I can only imagine literally how you really felt. Because, boy, I would go crazy if my kids put me through anything like that. And so, yeah, it's just having...
Man, I appreciate this moment. I appreciate this moment. So, thank you. Appreciate those words. Appreciate your heart. Thank you for... I never asked for or even expected an apology, but just you saying those words just really hit me this morning, and just seeing your reaction, because if anybody know my son, he hard. You're not gonna see this side of not Nate outing, but that's all. I think it's just God at work, man, and just being able to reflect back on these moments Man, I'll never forget some of the scariest moments that I had was driving down the 408. And you know, when you're coming from the east side into downtown, you see them big buildings. And one of the big buildings that stand out at a distance is the courthouse. And I used to tremble when I saw the courthouse when you were locked up. And I said, Lord, one of these days I'm going to have to go into that courthouse and hear things about my son and eventually hear a judge pronounce a sentence on him. And I knew I didn't know how to deal with that, man. Yeah. And I don't want to get ahead of the story, but thank God it didn't end that way. But it was a trying time. At the same time, though, you apologizing for what you put us through, but as a pastor, I realized what I had put you all through. Because when you all were going through that, I was approaching it as a pastor. I wasn't approaching it as a father. You needed a dad and a father. It was like, man, you making me look bad. You making us look. I'm bishop. I'm pastor. I'm whatever, right? And it was all about me. And God had to expose the pride in my heart. And I realized that above all the stuff that you and any of your siblings did, the biggest sinner in the Outing family wasn't even my children, it was me. Because the worst of sins is pride, right? And you can have pride and not even know you got it. And God had to expose that in me. And I had to realize that once I repented of that, and I brought you all together, repented before you, I repented before my pastor friends. I had to get my own heart right. Yeah. And, during that time, I walked away from ministry. I shut the church down. I told the members of the church, I can't lead you. I can't lead you because if I can't lead my family, if my family's all jacked up, how can I lead the church? So I walked away from ministry. We ended up joining a church on the east side where nobody knew who we were, and we stayed there for a couple of years until God healed me and healed our hearts, my wife and I, your mom and I. And so it was all God's development. Yeah. The man I am today, the pastor I am today, the father, the grandfather I am today, is because of those moments. You know, if society, that world within the world, society, didn't come knocking on our door, we wouldn't have gone through what we went through, and we wouldn't have learned what we learned, and we wouldn't be here where we are now. And so this podcast, I don't know what it's going to do for the rest of the folks and the listeners and all those who are watching, but I can tell you this was a moment for me, man. And I appreciate just even being here at this moment, just hearing and watching you. And my heart is full. I'm not a speechless person, but I'm almost to a point of speechlessness right now. So I don't even know what to say right now, but other than I appreciate this moment.
All right, man. Appreciate that, Pops, but enough with it. I'm done with the tears.
The tough guys back.
Yeah. We back, man. We gotta. No, that was good, man. That's again, all of it is connected to each other, and obviously from there, just to have a quick story or the finish of the story, looking at life in prison, and just the prayers. I can only say it was the prayers because I don't know how. From even having the lawyer thinking he didn't even know I got out. And so I got out. The next week after that, I did something to go back in jail. And then that's when I realized I couldn't. This ain't me no more. And so when Nate was born, that's when it really started to change. That's when you mentioned, he saved my life. That's what that means, that when I had Nate, I literally had more of a direction now to go, because I settled with that lifestyle. I was just going to live that lifestyle. I didn't care what it was going to take. I was going to settle with it. So from raising my oldest to football to coaching, I ain't know nothing about football. Starting coaching, and then a couple years later, obviously you seen that, and that you could tell I changed from that perspective as well, because it was a guy that was trying to fight me at the football field in front of kids. And
which is the moment that really eventually led to Central Florida Lions.
Florida Lions.
Yeah.
And so starting the Central Florida Lions, you put me, I mean, you started it being the president. I was football coordinator, but you was like, yeah, you need to be the head coach. I ain't know how to be no head coach. I ain't know nothing about it. But I stepped into that role and grew to love it. And I started to really see a lot more what this community brings, what it has when it comes to these children.
Yeah.
And even parents, how these parents, you know, are raising their kids and have the expectation from these kids. And it's crazy because, you know, we've been to court before.
Yes.
You know, with some of the kids we had, you know, dealing with the school, parents calling me as if I'm there to, hey, coach, I need you to come get your boy, blah, blah, blah. And it's a high, you know, I take this role serious as far as the coaching, man, and just to see, you know, what a lot of these parents going through. You know, God just placed, you know, this podcast on my heart so people can understand, one, they're not alone.
Right.
Two, you was a pastor that everybody looked up to, and you was ready to give it all up.
Yeah.
You felt like a failure still. So
I gave it all up.
You sure enough did. Sure enough did.
Yeah.
So a lot of people look at, you know, people in their roles and think everything is good, and a lot of times it's not. And a lot of times it's really what our children is
You know
putting us
what, to be honest with you, society had won. Society had won at that moment. Okay, you
got it.
You got it. I can't compete. And in that dark place, feeling like a failure, it was only when the Spirit of the Lord said, David, if you are a failure, then so am I. When God said that if you are a failure, so am I was like, God, how can you be a failure? And he took me back to Israel and how they had failed him. He had been a great father. He had opened up he provided for them miracle after miracle, gave them his word. He let the whole nation hear his audible voice. They didn't want nothing to do with God. And they even created an idol God after he did all that. And so God was letting me know, if the choices of your children determine how good of a parent you are, then I'm just as big of a failure as you are.
Wow.
And when the Lord spoke that to me, that you can be a good God and still have children fail you, and you can be a good parent and have children fail you, when that became real to me, it was like the dark cloud left. That's the only thing that brought life back to me, was God letting me know, I know how you feel.
That's good.
And when that happened, that's what got me out of depression. Because I felt like, okay, I wasn't a bad parent. Society didn't win. They may have won a few of the battles, right? But they didn't win the war, right? And so I got back in the game, and I was like, okay, society, all right, I'm back in the game. I was on the bench for a minute. It's
time to go.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
And this time, we ain't losing.
Let's do it.
And you know how I know we won? You sitting right here. You know how I know you won? You're a minister at your church. You know how I know you won? You're a coach. But even more important than all of that, you're a husband to a wonderful, my daughter. I call her my daughter. Of course, you're a great father to all of your children. And then you got these other kids in the community that see you as a father. You know, society, you brought it. Yeah, you was a good, formidable foe. But guess what? We winning now. We haven't won because life is still going on, but we're winning. And according to our faith, we will win in the end. So bring what you're going to bring. But we're going to be the winners because we got God on our side.
Hey, listen, you heard it here first. This is Parents versus Society. You see what society brings to the table, but you also see, as a parent, you can be up top of it as well. And so, you know, come be a part. Make sure you like, subscribe to our show, Parents versus Society podcast on YouTube. Listen, we'd love to have you too as a guest. Hey, got a question for you. So, after hearing what my pops just said, Who's raising your kids? You or society?